Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephania Cox. At the White House, President Biden holding a long-awaited meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What they'll discuss. Tension in the skies in the North Pacific as U.S. and Canadian fighter jets intercept Chinese and Russian nuclear bombers flying near Alaska. The House of Representatives passes a resolution condemning Vice President Kamala Harris's handling of the border crisis. 6 Democrats joined the resolution. The Justice Department charges a China-born Florida man with spying on Chinese dissidents in the U.S. Authorities say he's been providing that information to China's intelligence agency for over a decade. California Governor Gavin Newsom signs an executive order to remove homeless encampments across his state. First Lady Jill Biden arrives in Paris ahead of the Olympic Games, sporting a Team USA jacket. She was welcomed by the U.S. ambassador as Paris gears up for the opening ceremony tomorrow. Happening now at the White House, a meeting between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu is also scheduled to meet with Vice President Kamala Harris. Before the meeting, the two men acknowledged Biden's long tenure in public service. This is the first meeting between the two leaders since Biden announced his departure from the 2024 presidential race. Netanyahu's last visit was in 2020 when former President Trump was in office. The Israeli leader is planning to meet with Trump in Florida on Friday. The White House meeting comes during a crucial time in the 9-month-old war in Gaza. Biden is looking for Israel to close negotiations on a ceasefire deal that would attempt to release the dozens of Israeli hostages and end the fighting. And the House of Representatives has passed a resolution condemning Vice President Kamala Harris's handling of the border crisis as numerous Democrats rally behind their new all but presumptive nominee. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on this story.
6 Democrats voted with Republicans to condemn Vice President Kamala Harris for her handling of the border crisis. The resolution refers to President Joe Biden's decision back in 2021 to select Vice President Harris to lead the administration's border policies. The resolution also refers to Vice President Harris as the border czar.
There is no such thing as a border czar, and it's just continuing to use the official authority and official resources of Congress for partisan political electoral purposes.
Democratic lawmakers praised the Biden-Harris administration. For example, Congressman Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida, compared President Joe Biden's address to the nation Thursday night, where he explained his reasoning for not seeking re-election, to George Washington.
One of the reasons that we look to and admire George Washington so much is because he knew when the time was to pass along power or to step down. President Biden has cemented his legacy in a very similar way. One of the most effective presidencies in the history of our country, the most progressive president in the history of our country, and now someone who has made this hard decision to pass the torch. I think history will remember this kindly.
After votes this Thursday, Congress will not reconvene until mid-September when Congress is back in session. They will have 2 weeks to pass the remaining appropriation bills to fund government through fiscal year 2025. Something some Republicans believe is highly unlikely.
No, absolutely, it was not good. Kevin McCarthy got 7 of the 12 passed before he was wrongfully ousted, and then now Mike Johnson has gotten 5. They're probably going to be forcing us to vote on a CR.
House Republicans have passed 5 out of the 12 appropriation bills thus far, all 5 on party lines. Those 5 bills represent approximately 75% of government spending for fiscal year 2025. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
And House Democratic women are endorsing Kamala Harris as their party's presidential nominee. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joined the event.
I know her officially, her strength. Kamala is about strength and determination in terms of public policy. We know most recently in terms of a woman's right to choose, but the list is vast, as Whip Clark mentioned. I know her personally. She's a person of great faith, of deep faith, and commitment to public service in the most unselfish way.
Pelosi also praised President Biden as one of the most consequential presidents in American history. This was hours after he gave a speech about withdrawing from his re-election campaign. Biden saying that was the best way to unite the country. And Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to the American Federation of Teachers today, praising the union and others like it. She called unions the foundation of the middle class and criticized Republicans for their views on public education and gun control.
While you teach students about democracy and representative government, extremists attack the sacred freedom to vote. While you try to create safe and welcoming places where our children can learn, extremists attack our freedom to live safe from gun violence.
The American Federation of Teachers was the first labor union to formally endorse Harris. Democrats are likely to nominate her for the presidential ticket after President Joe Biden abruptly dropped out of the race last Sunday. Now Harris will compete head-to-head against Trump for the presidency, if she is indeed nominated. The former president went on the offensive at a rally Wednesday in North Carolina, calling Harris much worse than Biden. Trump also alleged that Harris had misled voters about the health and acuity of the 81-year-old incumbent. And House Speaker Mike Johnson joined other lawmakers last night in Washington at Union Square. They replaced Palestinian flags with new American flags. Congressman Rudy Yakim shared a video on X saying he wanted to help restore Old Glory to her rightful place. Representative Brandon Williams says the agitators will not have the last say. He thanked police and members of Congress who helped re-hoist the American flags. The lawmakers pledged allegiance to the flag after they were put back in place. And Vice President Kamala Harris condemned protesters near the U.S. Capitol. They had voiced support for Hamas and burned an American flag during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress yesterday. Harris stated that hate and violence of any kind have no place in our nation. Next up, Chicago is set to host the Democratic National Convention next month. The Secret Service and other agencies today laid out how they'll guarantee safety at the event. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the details.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th was a terrible day for our entire nation.
The Democratic National Convention in August comes on the heels of the assassination attempt of former President Trump. Chicago was chosen to host the DNC a while ago. The shooting at Trump's rally wasn't the only thing that has changed since then, as the city's mayor points out.
Now Chicago is not just hosting another convention. We are welcoming a new breath of life into our nation with the historic nomination of Vice President Kamala Harris.
The Secret Service is expecting various protests, counter-protests, and other forms of demonstration. The governor of Illinois says attendees will be able to exercise their First Amendment rights.
Tens of thousands visiting from around the globe and around the United States will witness a triumph of political expression and engagement, doing so without fear for their safety. That is a testament to our democratic culture.
The Secret Service department in charge of the convention also secured the Republican National Convention last week and the recent NATO summit in Washington. They say they expect the DNC to take place without any problems by taking the same safety precautions as before. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And a Florida man has been charged with spying for Beijing. Authorities say for more than a decade he spied on Falun Gong practitioners and dissidents in the U.S. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us from the State Department. Jack, what do we know so far about what appears to be acts of transnational repression?
Good afternoon, Steph. Well, yes, it certainly appears to be transnational repression. The DOJ announced on Wednesday that it charged Ping Li with spying on dissidents here in the U.S. as well as U.S. firms on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, doing this for over 13 years. Now, Li is a China-born U.S. citizen and resident of Florida, And for over 13 years, he has worked with China's intelligence agency, the Ministry of State Security. Now, this includes providing information directly to the CCP about the telecommunications company he's worked at, as well as information that could be used to harm U.S. citizens from China and their families back in China. Authorities say that his targets included pro-democracy activists, as well as U.S. politicians and nonprofits, and practitioners and supporters of the spiritual group Falun Gong. Now, this is the latest in federal action against Beijing's attempts to suppress Falun Gong in the United States. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is heavily persecuted by the Chinese regime. And in May 2023, the DOJ charged 2 suspected Chinese agents with attempting to bribe the IRS. Now, they allegedly aim to revoke the nonprofit status of an entity run by Falun Gong practitioners. Now, on this most recent case, we reached out to Lee's lawyers for comment, but haven't heard back. And Lee could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted on these charges. Back to you.
Thank you for that report, Jack. And staying with China news, a pair of Chinese and Russian bombers with nuclear capability were intercepted by U.S. and Canadian fighter jets near Alaska. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, says it's the first time this has ever occurred with both countries at once.
Chinese and Russian militaries confirmed Thursday they were flying patrols over the Bering Sea between Alaska and Russia. The Russian Defense Ministry said the patrol also flew over the Chukchi Sea on the north side of the Bering Strait. The joint exercise is a way to build coordination, according to a Chinese military spokesperson. The Chinese military noted this is the 8th joint exercise between the two countries since 2019. NORAD responded by stating the intercepted aircraft did not pose a threat. The Defense Command also stated that they will continue to monitor activity in that area and, quote, meet presence with presence. During a press conference today, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. was well aware about the Chinese and Russian bombers. He says America is always on the ready.
I'll tell you what message we're sending. And that message is we're going to be at the ready. We are at the ready. We will always be at the ready. We're going to defend this nation.
Austin says the aircraft didn't enter American airspace.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill told NTD's Luis Martinez that the incident is a deliberate show of force to challenge the U.S.
That was deliberate in face of the weakness of the Biden administration. They're testing us. They're making a statement.
Obviously a quick show of force. I mean, look, weakness invites aggression. We know that. So I think that it's key for our Foreign Affairs and our Armed Services Committee, but also our Intelligence Special Operations Committee, who just had a classified briefing to go through exactly what the findings were and how quickly we also determined whether or not they had crossed a certain line.
2 lawsuits against New York Governor Kathy Hochul for indefinitely pausing the New York City congestion pricing plan. New York City Controller Brad Lander made the announcement today. NTD's Fiona G. has the details.
We have 2 lawsuits today, one based on the 2019 MTA Reform and Traffic Mobility Act, which requires the state to move forward with congestion pricing. The second lawsuit is based on the state constitution's right of every New Yorker to cleaner air.
Comptroller Brad Lander, along with community and environmental rights groups, are saying that Governor Kathy Hochul did not have the right or the authority to postpone the congestion pricing plan, which the governor did do around a month ago. However, the comptroller is worried that this indefinite postponement will turn into a permanent dismissal of the law, which he says should have gone into effect at the end of June.
Congestion pricing brings all those things. It is the revenue, it's the $15 billion that will pay for signal modernization so trains come on time, that will pay for accessible stations, and it also will reduce traffic and clean our air quality.
New Yorkers have mixed feelings about congestion tolling. Some who often take subways and buses are in agreement with the plan, saying that the public transit system needs a revamp and needs the money to do so. However, those who drive in and out of Manhattan often say that they are not in agreement with the plan because the pricing and the tolls would be a financial challenge for them.
I'm for it. I think New York really is the only true walkable city in the U.S., and reducing the amount of car traffic really improves that experience for everyday New Yorkers.
It's not good because they're raising up fares, they're raising up prices in supermarkets, inflation, so how is a New Yorkers and how do all of us supposed to live? We gotta pay rent, We got to buy food. We got to buy our kids stuff. So how can you survive with congestion prices?
Comptroller Lander says that if either one of the two current lawsuits against Governor Hochul rule in favor of congestion tolling, then the law will be compelled to go into place. However, it remains to be seen what decision exactly the courts will make. Fiona G., NTD News.
If passed, drivers will have to pay an unspecified fee for every entry and every exit from the Manhattan Central Business District. Previous estimates put the price at $36 for large trucks, $15 for individual cars, and between $1 and $3 for taxis and ride shares. Prior to the postponement, discussions were also underway to determine who would be exempt from the fee, though a policy on that hasn't been confirmed. And next, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued an executive order today to dismantle thousands of homeless encampments across the state. Newsom's order would direct state agencies on how to remove the tents and makeshift shelters that line freeways, clutter shopping center parking lots, and fill city parks. While local leaders have the final say, Newsom's administration can influence actions by withholding funding from counties and cities. This move follows a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision allowing cities to ban sleeping in public places. He posted the announcement on X today, urging communities to act now. And CAL FIRE officials say the park fire in Northern California has scorched more than 45,000 and is currently at 3% contained. The fire ignited yesterday afternoon and grew rapidly overnight due to strong winds and dry conditions. Fire crews from the Chico Fire Department and CAL FIRE worked through the night to establish containment lines. Mandatory evacuations have been ordered. A thick haze covered the area amid charred trees and smoldering underbrush. CAL FIRE has indicated full containment will take several days. Efforts will focus on preventing any secondary blazes from breaking out. Authorities are monitoring the fire's behavior closely. The cause of the park fire is still under investigation. And Southwest Airlines plans to start assigning seats and selling premium options for customers who want more legroom. The decision marks the end of a more than 50-year-old tradition. Southwest's unusual boarding process started decades ago as a way for the airline to save money. The policy reduced the time it took for a plane to land, load new passengers, and take off again, a process known as turnaround time. Most airlines assign each passenger to a seat when they buy a ticket. Southwest said 80% of surveyed customers wanted an assigned seat. The airline added that open seating is the top reason that travelers stop flying Southwest and choose another carrier. Southwest also said it will offer red-eye flights for the first time. When we come back, the Israeli military says it recovered the bodies of 5 Israeli hostages. What Israel says about their deaths. And First Lady Jill Biden arrives in Paris ahead of the Olympic Games, sporting a Team USA jacket. She was welcomed by the U.S. ambassador as the French capital gears up for the opening ceremony tomorrow. That and more after the break.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated.
I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
The Kindness is Cool Video Awards are back for their second year. Record and nominate acts of kindness, both big and small, from individuals, families, and communities. Submit your videos on ganjingworld.com with the hashtag KindnessIsCool. Win a $10,000 grand prize and be featured on a New York Times Square billboard. Visit ganjingworld.com and start sharing today. Kindness is cool.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Welcome back. The U.S. economy continues to expand in the second quarter, exceeding economists' expectations. The reported growth comes despite the Federal Reserve's 23-year high interest rates. Today, the Bureau of Economic Analysis reported that the U.S. economy grew at an annualized rate of 2.8% in the April-June period, up from 1.4% in the first quarter. Second quarter expansion was driven by a 2.3% increase in consumer spending. That accounted for about 68% of economic growth. However, Scott Anderson, chief U.S. economist at BMO, predicts a slowdown in the second half of 2024 due to lackluster earnings, tired consumers, and investment uncertainties. Anderson also highlights that electoral and fiscal uncertainty could further impact results for the third and fourth quarters. And the Israeli military today said it recovered the bodies of 5 Israeli hostages. The military found their remains near Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. 4 of the 5 hostages were soldiers who fell in battle. The 5th was a 56-year-old woman who lived in a kibbutz near Gaza. Kibbutz Nir Oz was one of the hardest hit communities during the attacks by Hamas terrorists. Israeli authorities announced in late 2023 they believed the female resident was dead. The military today said all 5 victims were most likely killed on October 7th. Roughly 110 hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Israel has pronounced more than a third of them dead, but their bodies have not been recovered. And Greece has formally approved an offer to buy 25 F-35 fighter jets from the United States as part of a major defense overhaul. The first order will cost around $3.5 billion. Athens is overhauling its military and amid continued tensions with neighbor and NATO ally, Turkey. The dispute between the two countries is mostly over a volatile maritime border. The U.S. dropped Turkey from the F-35 program 5 years ago over its decision to buy a Russian surface-to-air missile system. Greece may purchase 20 additional F-35 jets as part of an $8.6 billion deal. Delivery of the 5th-generation fighters made by Lockheed Martin is expected to start in 2028. And First Lady Jill Biden arrived in Paris today ahead of the start of the Olympic Games. She donned a Team USA bomber-style Ralph Lauren jacket for her arrival in the French capital, where she was greeted by a welcome party, including the U.S. ambassador to France. The opening ceremony of the 2024 Olympics is due to take place tomorrow evening. And winners at the 2024 Summer Olympic Games in Paris will bring home a piece of history. Each medal features a piece of the Eiffel Tower's original iron structure. Following renovation work during the 20th century, certain metallic elements were removed from the iconic landmark and were carefully preserved. They have now been repurposed to create the medal's hexagonal centerpiece, a reference to France's geometric shape. Gorgeous. And next, thousands of rubber ducks raced towards the finish line in central London today. Their journey was part of an event supporting Cosmic Charity, which looks after babies and children in intensive care. To start the race, the ducks were launched off a nearby bridge and into the canal. Staff on paddle boards helped propel the rubber ducks down an over 100-yard stretch to the finish line.
It's a lovely community event, so we get all the companies come down and watch the duck race, we get all the residents here, but plus we also get all our Cosmic families. So we've got lots of supporters here today of Cosmic Charity. We've got some children here, we've got some babies here that are all looked after on our hospital here at St Mary's and also at Queen Charlotte's in Hammersmith.
I think my favourite part was probably watching the ducks and how confident Isla was in front of all the people and just seeing how many people turn up to support Cosmic Charity.
The acting chief executive of the Cosmic Charity said that 3,000 rubber ducks were launched. She described the event as beloved thanks to the fun it offers for the whole family. Event goers looking to join the fun could sponsor a duck to take part in the race, with funds going to Cosmic Charity. Well, thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox.